All right, you sick fucks. Want to dive into some seriously fucked up shit?
I'm game, let's do it.
We're going deep on unsolved murders, the kind that fuck with your head. The kind that make you think twice about camping, you know.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean.
We're talking about the real-life nightmare fuel that might have inspired Friday the 13th.
You think Jason Voorhees was scary? Wait till you hear this shit.
Okay, so picture this. Lake Bodum, Finland, 1960. It's a postcard-perfect summer day, clear skies, calm waters, you know, the kind of scene that just screams bloodbath.
Yeah, Lake Bodum was known for its beauty, a real serene spot. Kind of poetic how a place like that becomes a backdrop for something so brutal, right?
Totally.
Right?
So we've got these 4 teenagers, right? 2 girls, Mela and Anja, both 15. And their boyfriends, Seppo and Nils, both 18. They're just looking for some fun, some teenage kicks.
Ah, young love.
Little did they know they were about to become part of one of Finland's most notorious unsolved mysteries.
It's like straight out of some horror movie cliche. A group of unsuspecting teenagers, isolated, no clue about the danger lurking nearby.
And lurking it was. So June 5th rolls around, and some poor carpenter stumbles upon their campsite, finds a scene straight of a fucking nightmare. 3 of the teenagers are dead, brutally murdered.
It was a bloodbath. Anja and Seppo were found inside the tent, stabbed multiple times.
Juicy.
The killer slashed the tent from the outside, trapped them like animals.
And Mela.
She was found outside the tent, half naked and stabbed repeatedly. Savage. You could tell the killer was filled with rage, wanted to inflict as much pain as possible.
That's just messed up. But hold on, there's a twist. Nils, Mela's boyfriend, is found alive. Well, barely.
Yeah, the poor guy was messed up. Concussion, broken jaw, stab wounds all over.
And he couldn't remember a damn thing about the attack.
Talk about adding insult to injury.
So the cops show up, and they're immediately stumped. No murder weapon, some of the kid stuff is missing. And get this, they find Nils' shoes hidden nearby, soaked in blood.
Yeah, that was a weird one. The missing evidence, especially the murder weapon, really threw a wrench in the investigation.
Right. So let's talk about the suspects. First up, we've got this shady character, Carl Valdemar Gillstrom. Ran a kiosk near the lake and apparently hated campers with a passion. Like full-on psycho. He'd throw rocks at them, threaten them. Total dick.
Gillstrom, yeah. He was known for his temper, his aggression. Definitely had a motive.
So is he our guy?
Well, there were rumors. People said he confessed to the murders before his death.
Death. Did he off himself?
9 years after the murders, Gillstrom drowned in Lake Bodum.
No shit, you're kidding.
Nope. And to make things even more suspicious, his wife, who had initially given him an alibi, later retracted her statement, said she'd been terrified of him.
Damn, that is shady as hell.
So we've got a potential motive, a possible confession, and a suspicious death. But still, nothing concrete. No direct link to the crime scene.
So the mystery continued.
It does.
All right, so maybe it wasn't the rock-throwing kiosk owner? But get this. The next suspect is straight out of a spy thriller. We're talking Hans Assmann, a suspected ex-KGB spy.
Oh yeah, Assmann. His name came up due to some interesting circumstances.
Spies, man. This is getting wild.
He turned up at a hospital the day after the murders with bloodstains on his clothes and dirt under his fingernails.
Okay, that's pretty damn suspicious, even for a spy.
You'd think, right? But Assmann had an alibi, and the police, for reasons that remain unclear, never collected his clothes for forensic testing.
Seriously, what the hell were they thinking?
Years later, on his deathbed, Assmann actually confessed to the murders.
Wait, a deathbed confession? That's gotta be solid evidence, right?
Well, not quite. Assmann's confession was full of inconsistencies, and the police ultimately dismissed it. It's a shame because it could have been valuable, but without anything to back it up. It's just another theory.
So we've got a dead kiosk owner, a possible spy with a shaky confession, and a whole lot of unanswered questions. What the hell happened at Lake Bodum?
Well, that's where things take a really interesting turn. 44 years after the murders, DNA technology caught up with the case. Remember those blood-soaked shoes? The blood on those shoes? Turns out it belonged to the victims, not to Nils.
No way.
Yeah.
Are you telling me they pinned this whole thing on the one guy who actually survived? The dude who got his ass kicked and nearly died.
You messed up, right?
Messed up is an understatement. What the fuck?
But yeah, in 2004, Nils Gustafsson was arrested and put on trial.
Get out of here.
The prosecution's theory was that Nils, in a drunken rage, attacked Seppo. That started a fight, things escalated, and it turned into a full-on massacre.
So they're basing this on a theory. What about the missing murder weapon? The stolen stuff? Hello?
Right, those are still big questions. But the prosecution also brought in eyewitnesses who claimed Nils had been aggressive with the girls that night.
Okay, so did they actually convict him?
Nope. Despite all their efforts, Nils was acquitted in 2005. The court said there wasn't enough evidence to prove he was guilty.
Thank God for that. But still, that's some messed up shit. To be accused of murdering your friends 44 years later? Jesus.
It's insane. And get this, the state ended up paying Nils compensation for the wrongful arrest and the whole ordeal.
Talk about a mindfuck. So after all these years, the Lake Bodum murders are still unsolved.
Yep, still a mystery.
This shit's crazy, man. Like something out of a horror movie.
It really is. It reminds me that even the most beautiful places can hide some seriously dark secrets. Sometimes the truth just stays hidden.
Yeah, and that's a pretty unsettling thought. But hey, speaking of horror movies, didn't you say there might be a connection to Friday the 13th? I'm all ears.
Well, it's less about a direct connection and more about some interesting parallels. Think about it. Lake Bodum, Camp Crystal Lake, both are isolated, picturesque spots, the kind that make you feel safe right up until they don't.
Right. Secluded locations, that's horror movie 101. But what else?
Then you've got a group of teenagers just trying to have fun who end up terrorized and brutally murdered. Stabbings, blunt force trauma, the whole 9 yards.
Okay, yeah, I see it. But that's not exactly unique to Friday the 13th, is it?
Not on its own, no. But here's the kicker. Friday the 13th came out in 1980, exactly 20 years after the Lake Bodum murders.
Whoa. Okay, that's a little too close for comfort.
Coincidence? Maybe, but the timing definitely makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Are you saying those Hollywood scumbags ripped off the Lake Bodum story?
It's definitely possible. I mean, filmmakers often draw inspiration from real-life events, especially unsolved mysteries. It's like real-life horror taps into our deepest fears, gives us nightmares, and then we turn around and create our own monsters on screen.
So you're saying Friday the 13th owes a debt of gratitude to those poor kids who got slaughtered in Finland back in '60.
Oh.
That's kind of messed up.
It is a pretty morbid thought, but think about it. Both the Lake Bodum case and the Friday the 13th franchise are still huge, even after all these years. It says something about our fascination with the dark side of human nature.
True. We can't get enough of that scary shit. But let's get back to the movie for a sec. What about Jason? Was he based on a real person?
Not that we know of. There's no evidence for that. But the Lake Bodum murders could have inspired the tone, the overall feel of Friday the 13th. The brutality, the mystery of who the killer is. Those elements are there in both the real case and the fictional story.
And that hockey mask, man.
Yeah.
Fucking iconic. Like the universal symbol for shit's about to get real.
It really is. That mask, plus the way he just relentlessly stalks his victims, it made Jason a legend. He became the boogeyman, the unstoppable force that just keeps coming back.
So we've got the setting, the brutal killings, and maybe even some inspiration for Jason himself. But what about his mother, Mrs. Voorhees? She was the killer in the first movie, right?
That's right. Totally driven by grief and vengeance for her son's drowning. She blamed the counselors and went on a rampage.
Hold on. You're saying Jason drowned? I thought he was this unstoppable killing machine. What the hell's going on here?
Well, Friday the 13th isn't exactly known for its clear storylines. They kind of changed things up a lot over the years. In the first movie, Jason's this deformed kid who drowns because the counselors are too busy fooling around to notice.
Ah, the classic horny teenagers trope. Gotta get what's coming to him, right? But how does Jason come back from the dead?
They never really explain it in the first movie. It's like implied that his mother's rage, her desire for revenge, somehow brought him back. Or maybe he was never really dead in the first place.
So he's like a vengeful ghost.
Yeah.
A mommy's boy back from the dead to punish anyone who sets foot on his turf.
In a way, yeah. But people have interpreted Jason in a lot of different ways over the years. Some see him as a mindless killer. Others think he's more tragic, seeking revenge for what happened to him. Some even say he represents society's fears, the dangers lurking in the dark.
Damn, that's deep. So it's not just about the body count. There's more to Jason than meets the eye.
Absolutely. The way he went from this deformed kid to a hulking, masked killer, it's fascinating. He's become more than just a horror movie character. He's an icon, a symbol of how much we love the macabre.
And his story, just like those Lake Bodum murders, it just keeps grabbing people, scaring the shit out of them.
Exactly.
Okay, well, I'm officially creeped out. Maybe we should take a break from all this death and mayhem. I need a fucking beer. Okay, I'm back, feeling a little less creeped out after that beer. But seriously, what is it about Jason that makes him such a goddamn icon? I mean, the guy's been around for decades.
He's the gift that keeps on giving, right?
Been more like the nightmare that keeps on haunting, but you gotta admit, he's got staying power. What's the secret sauce?
It's more than just a hockey mask and a machete.
Yeah, he's an icon, a symbol, blah, 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 but what is it about him that gets under our skin?
Well, for one thing, there's that whole unstoppable force thing. You can't kill the guy. Shoot him, stab him, blow him up. He just keeps coming back.
Yeah, but that's pretty standard horror movie stuff, isn't it? The villain never really dies. It's like horror movie rule number 1.
True, but with Jason, it goes deeper than that. It taps into our fears about things we can't control, our own mortality, you know?
Whoa. Okay, so we're scared of Jason because he represents our fear of death. That's some deep shit, man.
There's also the mystery. We don't know what he's thinking, what he's feeling. He's this silent, blank slate.
And that blankness is terrifying, right? Just like anything could be going on behind that mask.
Exactly. It lets our imaginations run wild. And of course, there's the visual impact. That hockey mask is instantly recognizable, a symbol of terror.
It's branding, pure and simple. The Jason Voorhees brand. Mask, machete, unstoppable killer. It's marketing gold.
He's transcended the genre, become this cultural phenomenon.
And you know what? Those movies, even the bad ones, they give us a way to confront those fears, a safe space to scream our lungs out and then walk out of the theater feeling, I don't know, alive.
It's a catharsis. We get to explore the darkness, but from a safe distance. And Jason, with his brutality and relentlessness, he's the perfect guide for that journey.
Oh, I'm glad we had this little therapy session. I think I'm starting to understand the appeal of the big guy. Well, a little bit, anyway.
So next time you're watching some teenagers get sliced and diced, you'll have a whole new perspective, right?
Maybe. But for now, I think I've had my fill of horror for one night.
I hear you. It's a lot to take in.
It is. But hey, that's what the deep dive is all about, right?
Yeah.
Exploring the dark corners of the world, even if it keeps us up at night.
Exactly.
So to all you sick fucks out there listening, thanks for joining us on this twisted little journey. Keep those lights on tonight, and remember, what happens at Camp Crystal Lake
Yeah.
stays at Camp Crystal Lake.
Sweet dreams.